On bro grave. Today I gotta give my mans his flowers. The late great Carmen Basilio, also known as the Onion Farmer. You know, this is one of the greatest front foot fighters of all time, in my opinion. And not even my opinion, shit. History speaks for itself. He is the prime example of pressure done right. He was not wild, not sloppy, just relentless pressure and fundamentals turned up to 10. He fought from a compact stance, feet a little wider than textbook and weight slightly forward, but he was never squared up. He was always balanced. That's why he would throw a lot of punches nonstop and still be defensively responsible. His defense was probably the most underrated thing about him because he would throw shots to get some shots back, but a lot of those punches was either parried or blocked on his forearms, and he had constant head movement and constant upper body movement. Just like that, he would slip, dip, and roll, So he wasn't the average modern day brawler that you see today, that takes shots hoping they will beat skill, but this was a relentless pressure fighter with a lot of will, but with a lot of skill at the same time. He ain't chase opponents around the ring. He knew how to cut off the ring. It was short shuffling steps. He always stepped sideways after punching, and he closed exits instead of running forward and just taking unnecessary punches. His punches were short and compact. The left hook to the body and the overhand right was probably his most lethal weapons. He had a good jab, it was consistent, and he would throw double and triple hooks to the head and body. His uppercuts was short and vicious on the inside. Like you see right there with the GOAT, Ray Robinson. He's working him on the inside, and Ray was a great inside fighter himself. His high output was persistent, not frantic. It was the constant pressure that broke his opponent's spirit, and not only their spirit, but their rhythm. He forced opponents to fight at his tempo. And that's how he beat the GOAT, Sugar Ray Robinson. Even though Ray was a little past his prime, he had 100-something fights by then, but he was still the greatest, and Carmen Basilio was able to beat him, by keeping constant pressure and not being a sitting duck to get countered neither. He beat Ray Robinson in the first fight. Ray beat him in the second fight, but, both fights, Carmen Basilio gave him trouble. I don't like when people say Carmen Basilio was just a brawler, because he was much more than just a brawler. He was a tactician. He was a technician of smart pressure, a master of attrition. High output, high volume, but everything was calculated. He's the blueprint for people like Joe Frazier and Mike Tyson and Triple G and Julio Cesar Chavez. He's the blueprint for smart pressure. And, this was somebody that beat all-time greats like Sugar Ray Robinson, Johnny Braxton, Tony DeMarco. This is a 3-time world champion in 2 weight divisions, welterweight and middleweight. So, yeah, Carmen Basilio is one of the all-time greats. And if you ain't know, now you know. Go do your homework on the Onion Farmer. Carmen Basilio, baby.